I want you to forget everything you think you know about fishing. Seriously, today we're not just casting a line here. We are getting into a strategic battle of wits against one of the ocean's smartest ambush predators. This is not about luck. It's all about intelligence, deception, and really understanding your opponent on a deep, biological level. So let's get into the briefing. And that, right there, is the big question we're tackling. To win this game, you got to see the world the way they do. Their entire sensory reality is just different from ours. And knowing how to exploit that, well, that's the secret weapon that separates the pros from everybody else.
So our first move is intelligence gathering, right? Before we even think about gear or technique, we need to get inside the mind of the squid. We're going to hack their senses to figure out exactly where their vulnerabilities are.
Okay, so this is where everything you thought you knew about vision gets completely turned on its head. Squids? They're totally colorblind. Their whole world is just shades of gray. But, and this is a big but, they have superpowers that we do not. They can see ultraviolet light, which makes things like fish scales shine like absolute beacons. And they can detect polarized light, which lets them cut through all that water glare like they're wearing a pair of high-tech sunglasses. They see silhouettes with perfect clarity.
So what does this all mean for you? It means you can stop worrying about whether your lure is cherry red or forced green. To a squid, it's just irrelevant. What really matters is contrast. How bold is that pattern? How sharp is the silhouette against the background? That's what grabs their attention. But it's not just about what they see. Squids are incredibly sensitive to sound, and researchers have actually pinpointed a specific frequency right around 600 hertz that acts like a dinner bell they just can't ignore. It triggers this instinctual, aggressive response, so think of it as a sonic weapon in your arsenal.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of the intel we've gathered. We can hack their vision with high-contrast UV-reactive patterns. We can trigger their attack instinct with sound. And finally, we can use their sense of smell and taste, which is in their tentacles, by the way, to make them hold on longer once they actually strike. So now that we know their weaknesses, let's build the perfect weapon.
All right, knowing their weaknesses lets us move right into our second section, the science of the lure. And let me be clear, this is not about picking out pretty fishing tackle. This is about pure, applied biology. It's about engineering a piece of equipment that is specifically designed to hack those sensory gaps we just identified.
And here is exactly how every single one of those senses is targeted. You see that UV coating on a lure? Yeah, it's invisible to us, but to a squid, that thing glows. The silver reflective tape? It creates a razor-sharp profile that their polarized vision just locks right onto in dim light. And those little internal rattles? They're often tuned to that magic 600 hertz frequency. And of course, scent sprays make the squid think it's caught a real meal, so it's not going to let go. See? Every single feature has a very specific strategic purpose.
So with all this incredible science in mind, what is the #1 biggest trap that new anglers always seem to fall into?
Yup, it's focusing on color. They'll stand there in the shop agonizing over dozens of different shades and completely forget the most important rule we just learned. For a colorblind creature, contrast and context are king.
So how does this actually translate into a real strategy on the water? Well, you don't choose a lure because it looks nice. You choose it based on the conditions. If it's low light, like sunset, reds and oranges are going to create a really strong silhouette. In bright, clear water, you might go with blues, greens, more natural patterns, so they're less jarring. Murky water, fluorescent green penetrates that gloom like nothing else. And if you're up in Queensland, silver often works best because it perfectly mimics the local mullet. It's all about matching the contrast to the environment.
All right, we've got the theory, we've got the gear. Now it is time to put it all into practice out on the water. This is where we move from the science to the strategy, and we learn the true art of the ambush.
And look, your success on the day, it starts way before you even make that first cast. You have to find the perfect hunting ground. So you're looking for inner bays kind of close to the open ocean, and specifically, you want to find those dark patches of seagrass. Those are squid hotspots for feeding and breeding. But the most critical factor of all? Always, and I mean always, fish with the wind at your back. It just makes casting effortless, and it keeps your line nice and tight for maximum sensitivity.
So once you're in position, it all comes down to this simple 3-step rhythm. First, you cast out and you count as the lure sinks. That gets it into the right water column. Then you give it 3 sharp jerks of the rod. That's to get the squid's attention. And then comes the most important part of all. You pause. You just let the lure drift down, slowly and naturally. This pause, this is what we call the golden moment. A squid is a smart predator, right? It's looking for an easy meal, and that slow, fluttering descent of the lure
perfectly mimics a wounded, vulnerable little baitfish. This is not just a pause, it's a calculated invitation to attack. It is the trigger for their ambush instinct.
Now this is absolutely crucial. When they finally do attack, you have to resist that urge to just yank the rod. You'll often feel this light, tentative little tap. That's just the squid testing the lure with its tentacles. If you jerk now, you'll just spook it. You have to wait for that light tap to turn into a heavy, steady, constant pull. That is the signal that is fully committed and is trying to swim away with its prize. That's when you strike.
So, we've covered biology, technology, and strategy. But you know, the final piece of this whole puzzle, it's not in your tackle box. It's all in your head. This is our final section, patience and philosophy.
There's a saying among seasoned anglers that just perfectly captures this mindset. As long as you don't lose your lure, you always have a chance. It's such a great reminder that persistence is the ultimate tool. As long as your lure is in the water, the game is still on.
And just to wrap up, here are a few final secrets from the pros. Practice your knots, like the FG knot, in bad weather at home so you can do it under pressure when it counts. Oh, and if you're in Queensland, get the green bottle of Bushman repellent for the biting midges. Just trust me on that one. And remember that lucky lure you have? It works because you believe in it. And that confidence makes you fish it more often and more effectively. It's a total self-fulfilling prophecy.
So, in the end, after all the science and all the strategy, we're left with one final question. In this really intricate game of ambush and deception, what's the real prize? Is it about outsmarting the squid, or is it really about mastering the patience, the discipline, and the focus within yourself?